Okay, so I've been testing some volumes and trying to set up a few things. And I think I've got everything as close as it's going to be for our first test run. Um, Basically, I want to do like a little kind of a dev diary type thing, go through some of the process and some of the ideas around like where this project kind of started, and just kind of I don't know, talk through some stuff, make sure that people understand like kind of what the flow looks like, I guess. So, I'll, for one, a lot of the layout stuff is very temporary. Obviously, it looks like I downloaded Streamer's first Outrun background and then slapped some stuff on it, which is exactly what I did. Um, to the to the point where like this box behind me is supposed to be green, um, and I don't like how it looked, and I need to go fix things. Also, I have not properly lit the office, so my chroma key stuff, and I'm wearing a green hoodie, which is also problematic. Makes it where sometimes I go in and out of the picture, which is very fun for me. I'm enjoying it. But needless to say, this is very casual. We'll get better eventually. There's also like this fun light thing that's right in the way, so we can get into this later. So bear with me as I kind of play through some stuff, and eventually we'll get something a little bit tighter. But like I've been going through and making updates on the web page and trying to make sure that I have a little bit of content for each of the blocks. And one thing that I wanted to do was kind of do this video to show like this is kind of what my workflow, if you will, looks like. We'll just do like the fun hands-on stuff while it's at the back end, but it did give me an opportunity to kind of chat through like where this kind of came from and what some of like my go forward / goals are. So a couple of years ago, I guess October 2023, a buddy of mine who made the cool Cthulhu Jr. Little logo with the propeller beanie, Sir Bonafart on Instagram, go check out his stuff, it rules. He was doing, or he started posting about trying to do this drawing of a day thing. Like I've seen it called like Inktober, or there's a bunch of, everybody's doing a one a day thing in October. I think like especially, or everybody in my group, where it's very much just like a, hey, are you a horror affiliated? Clearly October's a big month for you to do something creative. And I was really interested in doing that. I think the one that he landed on at that point was another Instagram creator called Scumby X, something like that. Very cool stuff as well. But I am not much of an artist. I try to carry a sketchbook for doodles and stuff, and all of my meeting notes have dumb stuff drawn in the margins, but I'm by no means like good at it. But I had also been playing around in Unity and learning some like game dev stuff that year, and I thought it would be a fun opportunity to kind of like, one, work on pixel art, which I am just not great at. I was trying to learn more about, and two, to like just get more assets to put into like these generic platform levels that I was making, which whenever you're dealing with, again, like a October release kind of prompt of the day situation, I was like, oh well, these would be fun monsters that I can put in for a monster game. At the time, I was using, and if you look at one of the videos on the front page of the website, it's very much just assets that are from a course. Like the main little character is called like Arcade Boy or something like that, or Video Boy, and he was a fun little character to like run around and gave me kind of a fun shape. So during that month, I probably hit most of my goals. I mean, there was a handful of things that didn't end up getting animated, but I really came into like trying to learn like programs to be able to do art and like digitally. and learning more about pixel art, trying to learn about how some of that could be done a little bit easier. Because again, I wasn't familiar with Illustrator, or the most Photoshop I had ever done was really dumb, just like mashing two pictures together kind of thing. It was never anything that was actually wildly creative or interesting. So was learning a program as well as learning how to do the actual task, and then taking those assets into Unity and learning how to animate there. And it was fun. It was a really good learning experience for me. Made it where I had like a lot of moving parts, and I think those like daily prompt situations really made it where like I had more of a time frame with which I had to get them done. Not to say that I didn't stockpile like 2 or 3 on the weekend whenever I knew that week was going to be difficult at work, or I was going to be busy outside of work and needed to bank them. But like it was a fun experience. And kind of as I moved away from playing around with the platformer stuff, I started thinking about like, well, what would be a thing that I could potentially do with like my current skill set and like amount of time that I could apply to everything, and to like what would be fun. I guess what would be fun was probably number one, and number two was, well, you'll figure it out probably, which I think has been like the majority of my career, honestly. So I started talking to a couple friends of mine about some ideas originally for the platformer piece, where we would jump from different like monster to monster, and like they would have their own little levels and domains. And the more that I was looking at stuff like that, the more that I really didn't want to get into that piece until I could make it a little more complicated. By all means, I love playing a Mario, and like those classic Castlevania games are still 2 buttons, but I at the time was really concerned about like, again, the art piece, and having to generate all those assets and build out these like extravagant backgrounds, which is a thing that like I think I would need to be satisfied with the project. But instead started thinking about like, what are the things that like I loved at like the random arcade machines that I saw, or what did I always like find myself pulled to whenever I went to an arcade as an adult, or whenever I was like playing around on Xbox Live Arcade. And that was the shoot 'em up, the shmup, if you will. I remember playing on my NES with my uncle, who had a copy of like 1943, and it was a blast. I think I was in 5th grade when like I'm from a small town in the Midwest, and there was the largest church, and somebody from school was having their birthday party at this church, because it had like a whole floor of like basketball courts and all this stuff, and it was like an event center, and they had like 4 arcade machines there, and one of them was 1942 or 1943, like the Capcom Battle of Midway stuff. And I sat there and I played it until I beat it, and then I went home, and it was fabulous. Probably one of the most satisfying experiences I had at an arcade at that age, at least. I don't think I had gotten really into like a long play until much later. So I've always really enjoyed those games, like R-Type. Like, it's one of those things that like I'll put on just to play a level and then be done. I think, I don't know the year on it exactly. I remember whenever Ikaruga came out, like that was the first time I'd ever seen a bullet hell game, and was just kind of overwhelmed. Up to that point, I think the most bullets on screen I had really ever seen was like later levels of Aero Fighters on the Super Nintendo. So one of the nice things about those style of games, less the Ikaruga for sure, is that pretty much you're a ship that kind of gets a couple of power-ups and can shoot a little bit bigger and better. But for the most part, until you start getting into like multiple characters to be able to play as and weirder upgrade paths, it's pretty straightforward. And then what can you do with it to make it a little more fun and a little more engaging for the player? And again, like with what are you shooting, like what are your enemy sets? Playing those old regular Nintendo games, it was I have a red plane, and then I have some green planes, and then I have slightly larger versions of each that kind of move in and out. And then is there a big boat at the end, or is there a big plane at the end, and then how many cannons are on each? So, like, for the most part, like, fairly simplified enemy sets. Like, so that seemed like something that, like, I would be able to play around with and have, like, a decent amount of success. So, the end of 2024, I was playing around with creating like new pixel art for essentially the first chunk of what Cthulhu Jr. ended up being for this shmup iteration, at least. And then some of the enemies that he would fight, and I was just going back and forth on like not being entirely satisfied with what I was making. I had finished like learning a bunch of how it worked and doing all these little game dev courses and stuff, and that was super fun. And I had a good grasp of what I wanted to do, but I couldn't make it look the way that I wanted. Unfortunately, again, like the art side of it is the piece that was really struggling. Like I'm very excited about like doing all the code work and all that, but I just couldn't make something look as satisfying as I wanted to. And then the end of December, like for Christmas, I got a present, which was this little like handmade book. My girlfriend makes these. She like writes and then does like actually like makes her own books and stuff, like, which is super cool. And she gave me this Godzilla, which is super my jam. Obviously, I'm making a giant monster thing, and then you open it up and it was a Godzilla dancing and playing Dance Dance Revolution, which is a thing that we started getting into the end of last year. And this has just been sitting on my desk for it'd been sitting on my desk for a couple of weeks as I was trying to work through stuff. And I had started putting like my notes about the game in it, but I just kept looking at it and thinking and just being like, oh, that looks so cool. I wish I could make something that looks neat. And then one day sat down and dug through my art supplies that were just sitting in a cabinet, and I grabbed a stack of construction paper and just started cutting up stuff to make what turned into the initial little Cthulhu Jr. model, which let me just throw for splash real quick. This little guy right here. So obviously, like, super simple. He's green and has a couple different colors of green, eyes, and then tentacle face, and started like just threw some little waves on him to make it look like he was moving around in water. Nothing wildly fancy. But the more I started playing in this space, the more I started thinking about what would it look like if everything was made out of construction paper. Because I had had such a satisfying experience sitting down and like actually tangibly doing something. Like picking through paper and cutting it up and seeing what I could form. It was, I think, more cathartic than anything. And it was one of those things where like you could sit down and do it for an hour, and it just it was more relaxing than I expected to be, and much more relaxing than having to try to do pixel art, because again, like it was brand new, and I think honestly inherently, especially whenever I was doing with what were essentially large kitchen shears, there was no way that I could do anything that was actually super accurate. So a lot of the charm from like the initial Cthulhu Junior model for me is the fact that it is a little janky at the end of the day, and I think it's cute. That video that's on the front page, like that's very much just like, hey, this is the first pass. I wanted to get something that worked and something that I could play with, but you know, it's saving the model. It's I guess a little more labor intensive than having, you know, your dev create a box for you and then the art department coming in and making the box look nice. I needed to have something that looked at least somewhat fun for me to be satisfied and ultimately more engaged with it. So that's kind of where that landed. And then as I played around with more and more stuff, I like to think that I'm getting better with all of it every day, and having cooler ideas. So one of the things that that I grabbed stuff for originally at the beginning was I bought it was a different X-Acto knife because I couldn't find the one I had years ago, which meant that I could finally cut things accurately, which is just wild. But I had also not completed the background with the X-Acto knives yet. All of that was still very much, hey, I have a piece of blue paper and a couple other shades of blue, and I'm going to just layer on top of it, which is what you get with this stuff over here. That's one of the things that I'm going to plan on messing around with here in a little bit. That's why we have our blue cardstock. All of this is consistently just kind of moving forward and trying new things and seeing what works the most. With the what I did with the backgrounds here, it's just the blue paper. I cut up some squiggles, and then they don't lay flat properly, and I refuse to use any glue or anything at the time, because I wanted it to again just be like as simple and like this is a one material medium. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try playing with cardstock. I feel like it's gonna be a little bit heavier and should lay a little bit flatter. And I also think that's going to make the background pop a little bit more. I think kind of my plan right now is making backgrounds and the more important images. Obviously, like I have cardstock for the second wave of the Cthulhu Junior character that looks much more exciting. We do have my helper Winston, who's running around. Hopefully they will not jump on the desk, but if everything falls apart for a moment, it's cat related. But yeah, I think something like having the Cthulhu Junior character like obviously needed to be more detailed. It was the first thing I cut out, but I'm still, for the most part, pretty pleased with how he turned out. But we're going to do better animations for him and really start playing in that space. This first biome being the ocean, I think, was also an easy way to kind of ease into the art piece, and we'll have just, you know, a better version of what exists currently. So again, big blue background, but the way that the construction paper works, like the material is just a little bit grainier. I think having the cardstock will make it where it'll be a little more flat and bold, which I think will look real sharp once we get there. I also acquired this new X-Acto knife this week, which I'm really excited about. I don't understand why whenever you go to buy an X-Acto knife, and I'll just for context, this is what I got originally, which is great. This is fine. This is standard. This is what I always think about whenever I'm thinking about an X-Acto knife. There's not a lid for this, and I am not the safest person. And I have cats. Again, if they see it on the table, they'll run up and knock it. They'll bat it, as one does, and all of a sudden I've got a blade flying across the room. So I went to the craft store and purchased this week, which has a lid, which I may or may not be able to get out from the look. Oh, and see, now I'm already worried. That came out too weird. Okay, well, it does open. It's just a little weird. That's fine, but at least I can put it away. Also, it's weighted in a really interesting way, and you got like your little pencil thing, so that's super exciting. Let's see. Just trying to think if there's anything else I should hit. I guess just as a plan, I'm gonna try to do these every once in a while. I guess particularly if I have something that I think is going to be really interesting to look at, or like a cool update for, like, hey, here's a few different things that have been added to the game at this point that I want to show off and possibly get feedback from the audience. So expect these to pop every once in a while. Maybe eventually I'll get a good cadence where like once a week try to do these, or every other week is probably a little more plausible. And then, obviously, like with the rest of the website and everything, I'm going to try to make sure that like our dev blog stuff gets updated there with like photos, and then every once in a while I'll have like just pieces about things that I think are going to be interesting to maybe discuss. I know right now I'm super excited. A couple weeks, the new Stephen Graham Jones book comes out, so we'll get into Buffalo Hunter, I'm sure. Very excited about that. I've also been super into playing, that new Monster Hunter. I did a little article on that a little bit ago. I just finished low rank yesterday. I've not played as much as I would like, but it's been fantastic. Loving it, absolutely. So basically, these are the blues we have. I think some of these are too dark for our standard. I think that looks pretty close to what our original is. I think it's got a decent pop. I'm gonna see about moving this cat down, because she looks like she's about to do something terrible for me. And then just look over here. I think that's an okay blue. We'll try that as our initial background at least. And then I do still want to do like the nice little squigglies, just to have some things out there in the water. Also, like if you ever played those old NES style, like just less art, a lot of times like it is just like one standard background, and then like, hey, there's some clouds sometimes. So I want it to be a little more happening. And as you progress through the levels, like the other biomes that I've got started are going to have a lot more going on. I think this is going to be the most chill, which again is by design. I think it'll be a nice entry point for everyone to mess around with. So I think this is what we'll use for that. And this is going to be a very, like quick, hey, we're just going to play around for a little bit piece. I already love the weight of these, so let's see how this works. I'm honestly just going to cut some squiggles. I think that'll be fun. And then we need to make the waves later as well. So what I think I'll do, and I do wish I had my good scissors with me. I wonder if I have a set back here. Yeah, we got some junk scissors back here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this in half, and I'm going to use half of it as basically squiggle junk, and then I'm going to use the other half to do some waves. And again, like, the nice thing about this is that we can easily decide what we want our background to look like if we play with a little more colors a little more often. Also, I mean, while it's not as cheap as just doing a digital art thing, paper is thankfully not super expensive. Oh, and cat's doing a thing. We'll try to get her down super quick. And then if she does this again, we'll send her to bed. Hopefully that won't be the case. She's been so good for the last 20 minutes. And of course, she wants to play. She's also used to being up here while I work from home, so it makes sense. Alright, so let's pop this guy on. I don't think it's too bad. And that's whenever I get a halo, which is fun. Again, I want to make sure I get the cameras and everything set up a little bit better next time, but I wanted to do something today. So I haven't cut cardstock yet, so this will be an experience for all of us at the same time. And a lot of times whenever I'm like actually making characters or something, I'll try to draw stuff out first, but with this, I really just want to play. That felt great also. And what I'll probably do is slice these up a little bit thinner. Yeah, that's satisfying to do. And Winston's going to come through, or she's going to try to, which is going to be really weird on camera, I think. Oh, there she goes. So let's move some stuff. And again, maybe we'll be lucky and she'll just want to sit over there. There's a lot of stuff for her to play with on the desk right now, so we'll see how she deals with it. But if you see a paw jump in, just be ready. This will be our sneak attack camera. Alright, so yeah, just a nice little ripple. Try to clean it a little bit. And then I've got my tweezers over here for whenever I'm actually like placing things and trying to build stuff. And then I'm just going to do like another line of these in a different width. And then we'll chop some of them up. I didn't do a great job there. I want to try to keep it as flowy as possible, but I'm getting a lot of angles. Again, this is also new to me, so slowly but surely we'll get there. So it takes a little bit more pressure to get through the cardstock, which makes sense. But it's going to mean we're going to have to clean up those edges. Winston is just right off camera. Yeah, and that just kind of split. So again, not a big deal. We got plenty of tries. I stabbed myself slightly there, but nothing terrible. As long as I don't bleed on Twitch, I think I'm okay. There's got to be a rule against that. Okay. Let's just do one other one, and we'll try to make sure that we do a nice pressure throughout. And Winston is getting into my stuff. Safe spot, and then we'll move this cat, who is immediately excited about our squiggles, which is good. Our first feedback was positive. Good for cats. Okay, we got some blue squiggles. We got some scrap. What I need to do is get one of those big paper cutters. I had not considered that yet. I used to work in bookstores and we had them in the back room, so anytime I needed one I just used it there. I hadn't even considered the fact that this might be beneficial to at least have straight lines. Not that we couldn't fix this. I also have these fun little metal rulers, so we could cut straighter. Again, we're being casual, we're having fun. It's Thursday, but it's also a vacation day, so we're just gonna enjoy ourselves, cut up some stuff. Yeah, that feels alright. Let's see if we can do something similar. And I'll probably end up taking these ones that are pretty long and chopping them up a little bit too. But basically what we want to do is we want to make blocks, and then we'll scan the blocks so that way we can duplicate them, or we can manipulate them a little bit digitally. There is still like the digital component. I'm still taking this into to modify things, obviously, so that way I can get it into Unity. And on some of this stuff, I'm like those little edges that I was cutting off, I'm gonna try to do it as manually as possible, just because again it is very satisfying for my brain. That'll be a thing that I'm sure comes up a lot as we kind of progress. A lot of this part of the project is very satisfying for my brain. Again, it's one of those things where it's very calming, and even if you mess up, if it's not exactly the way that you want it, It's not the end of the world. It's very chill. Whoa. As I roll a blade at myself. Very chill. Yeah. I'm gonna take these little guys. And see, with the construction paper, they would pop up a little bit on the edges. So this is exactly what I thought it was going to be. A little bit heavier, a little bit nicer to play with. So I'll try to do another one of those. Similar, but not quite. And then we'll chop it. Like that already got a little too wide. That'll be a good place to chop it. So we'll like hack it in the middle and then kind of trim that edge. Or something like that, maybe? Yeah. I also keep most of the scrap as I'm working through. That's been kind of a fun thing. What is it called? There's those. I had forgotten about them. Like they existed whenever I was very little, where you would use like felt and create pictures. There's an Instagram account. It's called something of the fuzz. Oh, this is gonna drive me nuts. 1 second. I must know, because this will be relevant. I promise. Captured by the fuzz. Fuzzy felt renditions. Like, here. Let me pop this up on the other screen so I can kind of explain what I'm talking about while I'm doing it. Hopefully those clicks are not too terrible for you guys. Okay, let's go back over to camera. Captured by the fuzz. Yeah. Basically, they would do little felt art pieces. So all of these weird little shapes came in a container, and you could just make little art with it. And they've just been buying different weird containers, but I super like their style. They did a bunch of here's Chewy the Chewosaurus, is what it says. Very cool. But that's why I keep all the little shapes. I might need them later for something else. Also, by and large, I try not to ever throw anything away, much to the extreme sadness of those around me. Everything is, I wouldn't say hoarded. Everything is in its right place and strategically alphabetized. I just have a tendency to like to collect things and not throw things away just in case I do need them in the future. But you know, so far that's worked out. Okay, we've got some little wavy dark blues. We've got some little wavy light blues, and then there's a dark blue in here. Let's do one more line of that. And then we'll probably shut all this down. It should be about 45 minutes or so. That's not too bad. Appreciate everybody who makes it long enough to hear me apologizing for rambling, but I guess that's kind of the whole purpose of this. Hopefully it's informative, or at least somewhat interesting. Hopefully both. So just darker. Actually, let's see. Just slightly different. That's what's nice about these packs. You buy blue, and it's like, here's 5 blues, and half of them are just slightly different. which is going to be great for how we can layer Cthulhu. That's going to be super fun, I think. Alright, so I'm going to do one that's just a little more dynamic. Bigger waves. Also feel like I'm just kind of testing my arm movements to make the waves later instead of just the little detail work. I probably won't have that on camera, but I'll certainly make a little post once we get this kind of incorporated. I've got some free time tomorrow, but I'm also getting ready to go on a trip this weekend. I have a thing that I booked the end of, well, third quarter last year, where it's Prague Metal Weekend. So Dream Theater, who have a fantastic new album, are doing a 30th or 40th anniversary show, or anniversary tour. And then the following day, there's this other band named Vola that's opening up for a band, and Vola's also fantastic. And they're in the same city. It'll be a nice, like, go up, hang out, watch a bunch of shows in a row, really enjoy the city. I'm hoping to hit a couple of arcades on there. If you guys looked at that arcade blog post, it's one of those things where, like, anytime I'm out of town, I try to go. A buddy of mine is attending a convention in Seattle this week / weekend, and he made it to a little barcade thing last night, and he sent me a ton of photos this morning, so I am incredibly jealous and need to go fulfill some of those arcade dreams. Yeah, so we'll get our stuff over here. Here we have our little scraps, our little waves. Let's go ahead and just safety first. It's weird that I don't entirely love how this works, but it is better than just throwing a loose razor blade in your craft box, I guess. If anybody has recommendations on a great X-Acto knife topper, that'd be fabulous. I don't know what people do with them, but there's got to be a better way. Okay, so we're going to do this, and this isn't going to be final. I'm just going to kind of show you what we're playing with, and I think I kind of want these little curvy guys. After spending like an afternoon trying to casually pick up little pieces and then move them around, with primarily, honestly, the end of the X-Acto knife, getting cool tweezers was just a game changer. And again, a lot of this is learning about a good workflow for all of it, not just the actual code piece. Or it's just a matter of finding a good way to do all of it, even if that is just a matter of, hey, I'm going to spend $10 to get a cool set of tweezers. But yeah, these feel good. And again, for the most part, especially the bigger ones, they're laying a little bit flatter. Not all of them. We got this little guy right here that's trying to pop up a bit. This little guy here that's also casting a bit of a shadow because its little tail is popping up. But we'll fix that and get them all straightened up. Trying to see how it looks. It's not too bad. Again, we're gonna go through and we're gonna make this a lot bigger and a lot more of them, so that way I can import it into my illustration software and then kind of maneuver stuff around. But if we look at kind of the different colors that we have here versus if we go back to, again, our initial Cthulhu picture, we had a kind of lighter blue, and then there was another stack of the same lighter blue on there for texture, but a lot of that texture is coming again because it was popping up, which I don't think is necessarily bad, but I at least wanted to try to play a little bit. I do like the different blues that we have a lot more than I like this kind of light greenish thing, I think is what it was. Maybe it's... We have a stack here. Let's get our cardstock out of the way. And then, what blue could it be? I mean, that's the background, right? Maybe not even in the stack that I grabbed. So, there's another blue floating around somewhere. That, again, is just not quite. It's not blue enough. We didn't have enough blues. We didn't have enough colors, and I think this pops quite a bit more. Again, like we'll sit down and we'll chop everything up. I'm not certain that I don't want to use this teal color as the water the more that I look at it, and then just have everything else as the texture. I'm going to think about that the rest of the day probably, at least tonight. So these are the things that will keep me up at night. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good stopping point. We've seen a little bit. We talked a little bit about plans and about what we're thinking about going forward. Again, we'll be working on the initial water biome for a little bit longer. I've got 4 other enemies that will be showing up in the very near future. That's probably one of the big things I'll be working on tomorrow, and then again, I'm out of office for 3 days, but we'll get back to really heavily working on this next week, so, or as of next Tuesday or Wednesday. So expect to see another ship that I'm really excited about. There's the skeleton that I posted about the other day. I've got to implement some code from a different project that I was working on to make him really do what I want, but I'm super excited to see how that works out. We will be talking about mid-bosses soon, and potentially I think maybe the next stream, depending on how time frames go, may be around making a couple more versions of our final boss for water biome. We've got some things that I need to do to make physical parts for him still, so that'll be really exciting. I need a couple other pieces to make the animations. Again, I try to make the most of the animations as I can physically first, and then kind of adjust things as I need to where I can. Yeah. Thanks for watching the video. Hopefully you're excited about the stuff that we're working on right now. I know I am. Oh, real quick, I mentioned Sir Bonaparte, the logo, all of that earlier. Let me double check that Instagram. That's actually, let's go see what he's posted recently. Oh yeah. Here we go. We got Sir Bonaparte listed right up here. So if you like that logo, check him out. He does a bunch of wild stuff. This is a really fun little barrel situation. I like that a lot. Always fun to see what he's up to. So if you like the logo, you like that style, check that out. And hopefully we'll clean up the backgrounds and production stuff for these streams going forward. But if you like it, make sure you let me know. I'm gonna do them here and there regardless. But if people like checking things out, I'm happy to pull behind the curtain, what have you, from time to time. But thank you guys so much. I hope you're excited about Cthulhu Jr. And seeing kind of how this progresses over the next few months. But yeah, have a good one.